For those of you who haven't done anything with me before or don't know anything about me, I'm a yoga teacher. I've been teaching yoga since 1992. I don't even know how long ago that is anymore. And I was diagnosed with diabetes in 2008. And then I was like misdiagnosed with type 2, and then eventually they figured out it was type 1. And so then in 2014, I started insulin. And I didn't really start like a basal and bolus insulin program until 2018. And then I didn't really eat normally, like in terms of like a whole variety of foods and whatever I felt like, until 2 or 3 years ago. So up until that time that I kind of adopted just a normal whole foods eating routine, I had my diabetes like in this very tight range by just basically, restricting all my carbs. And so I never went through a lot of ups and downs with my diabetes management in the way that I have now. And so what I use now, and the reason I'm sharing this is the breath is so important, and being able to focus on the breath. But as I said, when you're in the middle of a very sort of intense low, it's sometimes very hard to come back to the breath because there's so many other things going on in the body that are gnawing at our attention. So it's actually training ourselves with these breath techniques when we're not going through a stressful period in our management, which sometimes can be all the time, but just in those spaces in between where we can remember to practice a particular breath technique that then might carry over when we're actually in that fight or flight response. And this can really apply to anything. It doesn't just have to be a diabetes situation. It can just be a life stress situation. So Kriya, the word Kriya means action. And what is the action? It's the action of bringing the mind to the breath and drawing the mind out of its habitual tendency to get carried away with any kind of stressful situation or thought or idea. And ultimately, the whole concept that we have about ourselves, and that idea comes from how we've been conditioned, how we've been brought up, what our genetics are, what we take on from society. It's almost like everything about ourselves has been given to us. And so when we take the mind and we put it on the breath, it's like we suspend that idea of ourselves. That idea gets lifted up and taken away, and there's this feeling of peace or calm, bliss, maybe a sense of connectedness or oneness. And that's not separate to you. It's actually the nature of who you are. It's just we don't remember that because we're always getting carried away with this thing and that thing and this thing and who I think I am and how I think I should be and how I think I should approach life. So the simple act, the Kriya of bringing the attention to the breath, is what actually helps to suspend the sense of ourselves, the idea that we have of ourselves. And then that gives us a glimpse of the stillness that we are. And so it's in that glimpse and that remembering of the stillness, the more we can do that, the more we can, in a sense, depersonalize the experience that we might be having, the stressful situation that we might be having. In other words, I'm not the stress. The stress is happening in my presence. Yeah? The awareness of the stress, I am that awareness, aware of the stress, but I'm not the stress, and I'm not the stressor, and I'm not the situation. Yeah? And so yoga helps, the practices help just bit by bit by bit with that depersonalization. But ultimately, the word yoga means oneness and wholeness. And really the goal of yoga is to realize the nature of who you are, so that you recognize yourself as that peace, as that stillness, as that oneness. And so then whatever happens, it's like you make that choice whether you want to engage with it or not. And, in the case of myself and my low blood sugar, it's not that easy, right? Even if you know that you are that peace, it doesn't mean that you don't fall and trip when you're in the middle of a really stressful situation. So we are going to start with the basics of the Kriya, which is just to understand how to work the breath. And then once we work this particular style of breath, which is called Ujjayi breath, which is actually a cooling and calming breath, then we're going to take that breath into a visualization that works with mantra. So has anyone here done the Ujjayi breath before, or do they know what I'm talking about? You can just put a thumbs up or raise your hands. I know some people don't have their cameras on. Okay, but even if you've done it before, it's always nice to just review it a little bit. So I'm just going to share, just generally how I teach this practice. So what I'll get you to do is just to raise your right hand, and you're going to breathe out through your mouth. And as you breathe out your mouth, you're going to imagine that you're, looking at it's like you've got a glass here or something, and you're going to fog up the glasses. And as you make that sound, breathing out and fogging up your glasses, just notice how the breath touches the back of the throat. It sort of glides across the back of the throat, and you can hear the sound in your ears. Okay, now you can put your hand down. Now we're going to make that same sound breathing in. So we did it with our mouth open and breathing out, but we're going to make the same sound breathing in. So it sounds and looks like this. And when you do that, it's like there's a cool, minty, fresh feeling at the back of your throat, right? So when you breathe in, it's like, remember, I don't know if you did, but back in the day, I used to smoke menthol cigarettes like in the 80s or whatever. And it felt like that cool, minty thing at the back of the throat. So, or having a minty or something like that. So breathing in. Great. So we've got the feeling at the back of the throat when we breathe out with the mouth open. And we've got the feeling at the back of the throat when we breathe in. And one is warm when we breathe out, and one is cold when we breathe in. Now, we do the Ujjayi with our mouth closed, but we maintain the sound in the back of the throat. So the best example of this, or how I like to share this, is that you breathe in, through your nostrils. You breathe out with your mouth open, making the sound, and then halfway through, you close your mouth and you feel the sound directed to the back of your nostrils. So it looks like this. Now, I don't know if the volume is loud enough for you to hear that kind of whispery sound, but yeah, okay, great, Karen. So that's what we want to try and hear. So we're going to breathe in through our nostrils. We'll do this together. So we'll breathe in. We'll breathe out through our mouth. And then halfway through, close your mouth and feel the breath directed to the back of your nostrils. Great. And let's try that again. We're going to breathe in through the nose. We're going to breathe out through the mouth. And then halfway through, direct the breath to the back of the nostrils. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the inhalation. So we're going to breathe out through the nose. We're going to open the mouth and breathe in through the mouth. And then halfway through, we're going to close the mouth and feel the cool breath directed to the back of the throat. So we breathe in, breathe out through the nose. We breathe in. And then close the mouth and feel the breath in the back of the throat. So you might need to close your mouth a little bit sooner than that. So again, we're going to breathe out through the nose. And then breathe in. And as you breathe in, you'll feel that breath kind of directed towards the chest. Okay, so let's try now breathing in and out with the mouth closed. So breathing in, feeling the breath at the back of the throat. And breathing out, feeling the breath almost cascading across the roof of your mouth. So breathing in. And breathing out. And breathing in. And breathing out. And now just close your eyes and just do this breath a few times. Breathing in. And breathing out. And see if you can lengthen the breath so that the length of the inhalation matches the length of the exhalation. And see if you can make the breath more subtle. So that you're feeling the breath mainly in the chest area. The Ujjayi breath is a 3-directional chest breath. So it goes out the front, out the side, and out the back. Breathing in. And breathing out. And breathing in. And breathing out. And let's just do this a little bit longer, just breathing in. And breathing out. See if you can start to soften and refine that Ujjayi so that it's almost like a baby snoring. So it's very, very subtle. And really count how long it takes you to inhale and how long it takes you to exhale. So you're just marrying your mind to the breath. All right, and then when you're ready, just release your focus. And you can gently open your eyes. So that was just tuning to that Ujjayi breath. And hopefully you could feel how quickly the nervous system and the whole mind and emotions and everything just calms down with that breath. And if the breath is, if you're feeling like you don't have much energy and you want more fire, you can make that breath louder. If you're feeling like you want to be cooler and calmer, you can make that breath more subtle. So how we work with the breath is how we can also invoke or calm energy down. Now, something sometimes that happens with that Ujjayi breath is you can feel a little bit of restriction in your throat or constriction in your throat. So if that's happening, you might want to keep it as soft as possible because that might mean you're forcing the breath. And that's actually creating like a tightness in the vocal cords and, you know, the vocal folds, for instance, and that can actually bring in more stress. So just like when you're working with this Ujjayi, just tune into how it really feels for you and try and adjust it as you go along, but always remembering that less is more. So the louder you go, the more energy you invoke, the softer you go, the calmer you go. Okay, so with this Ujjayi breath, as part of this Kriya meditation, we're going to add in a mantra. Now, mantras are sounds, sound vibration, and mantra comes from 2 words, mana, mind, and trayati, which means, or trana, which means freedom. So again, when we bring the mind into a one-pointed focus, when we focus the mind, it frees us and it liberates us and supports us to have that moment, that glimpse of the nature of who we are, that peace, that oneness, that stillness that's ever present and never goes anywhere. So the mantra that we're going to invoke is a classic mantra, and the mantra is So Hum. Now, So Hum is the sound that our breath makes all day, every second, every minute of every day. The sound is going approximately 24,700 times a day. The inhalation is So, and the exhalation is Hum. So if you just put your hands over your ears for a moment and you just take a natural inhalation and a natural exhalation, see if you can feel the change in the timbre of your of the sound of your breath. So the inhalation. So the inhalation is So, and the exhalation is Hum, right? As you breathe in So, as you breathe out Hum. Yeah, you can take your hands down. It's kind of hard with your earphones on and everything to hear. So hum also relates to the mantra hum sa. And usually what happens is so hum becomes hum so, hum sa. So hum and hum sa are related to the image of a swan. And so the swan is actually called hum sa. And what we know about the swan is that the external part of the swan is white, right? And it's above the surface. And then the legs and everything are below the surface, and they're sort of maybe navigating through the muddy water or whatever. But what we see is this beautiful white swan. And the beak, they say that the beak of the swan is all about discernment and being able to separate milk from water, or from impurity and purity. So coming to purity. So when we're working with the Soham mantra, it relates to purification, purifying the physical body, purifying the mind, clearing out again all the identifications, all the stress, so that we can just really be with ourselves. Yeah, that oneness, that wholeness. So what we do is we then, on the inhalation, we internally chant So, and on the exhalation, we internally chant Hum. Now there's a third stage to this practice, and this is another Kriya. So we've got the Kriya of the breath, which is the Ujjayi breath. Then we've got the mantra, which is another aspect of a Kriya practice. And then the last part of the Kriya is working with visualization. And what we're going to do is imagine that at the very bottom of the body, in between the pubic bone and the tailbone, is a ball of light, no bigger than, just like a little tiny ball of light. And it has a warm glow, like a sunlight glow. So it's not like bursting bright hot. And it's just like that warm summer, sunrise glow. And you imagine that light traveling up the center line of your spine. So it pierces the center of the spine and it goes right up to the middle of the brain. So in the brain, there's a beautiful gland there, a butterfly gland called the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland sits in liquid, and it is responsible for harmonizing all the other glands in the body. So it helps all, different aspects of our glandular system, the immune system glands, the thyroid gland, the ovaries, the testes, the thymus, which is relates to our circulation and everything like that. So when we bring our awareness right to the center of the brain, it's like we're actualizing that harmony throughout the whole mind, the emotions, and all the body. So we're going to visualize a ball of light like a small sun. We're going to place the mantra inside there, the So mantra, and then we're going to use the Ujjayi breath and draw the breath from the base up the center line of the spine all the way to the middle of the brain on the inhalation. That's So. Then on the exhalation, we're going to chant the mantra Hum, and we're going to visualize the breath flowing all the way back down the spine, all the way to the base. Yeah. So we're going to inhale, draw the breath up to the center line, So, and as we exhale all the way down, Hum. And we're just going to do that. So, hum, so, hum. Then there'll be a point where we're going to reverse the flow. And we're going to chant hum up the spine. And we're going to chant so down the spine. But I'll take you to that point. Yeah. So we'll start to go hum, sa, hum, sa, hum, sa. And then eventually you'll feel your energy becoming very, very calm. And we'll bring our awareness right to the midbrain. And we might even put a little bit of pressure there with our fingers. And then I'll guide you just to stay in the midbrain, and I will give you a mantra to practice there. And that's where we can really tune to that stillness and that oneness. So Kriya practices are tantric practices. They're very different to insight meditation practices. Insight meditation practices are very much about observing sensation, mindfulness, being very present. Kriya yoga is related to Laya, Tantra. Tantra, the word Tantra is all to do with seeing all of life as that divinity, that wholeness, that oneness, and using the body to free oneself of the limitations of the body, using the mind to free oneself of the limitations of the mind, using the breath to free oneself of the limitations of the breath. So using visualization, using mantra, using breath, all of those things come together, and it makes it a very active practice as opposed to a passive practice where we're just observing sensation. So you might experience something quite different to what you would experience when you do a regular insight meditation, because we're coming from a completely different stream, right? There's the insight meditation stream, which comes through Buddhism, and this is a tantric meditation stream, which comes through tantric practice, which came about in India through agrarian society, where they were cultivating, worshiping deities, and asking for crops and rains and things like that. And so it's a very very different system. So if you've never done anything like this before, just go with it. I'll lead you through the whole thing. And if you're not experiencing any of the visualization, just focus on the breath or focus on the sound. So we all experience our inner world very differently. Some of us are very good at visualization. Some of us are more feeling oriented. Some of us are more sound oriented. So just whatever resonates for you as we go through the meditation practice, just work with that. So does anyone have any questions before we begin? We'll be sitting probably just for about 15 minutes. It's not a very long practice, but really make sure you're comfortable. And it is important to be seated as opposed to lying down, because as soon as you lie down, all the blood goes to the back of your brain and you'll just fall asleep. And that's really lovely for yoga nidra, but it's not ideal for a Kriya meditation practice. So yeah, just make sure you're really comfortable. And so whatever that looks like for you, sitting with your back up against the back of your bed, or sitting on a chair, or however you want to go. All right, so just gently close your eyes. And that was a lot to take in. So first of all, just let all that go and just be aware again of your natural, normal breath. Noticing the inhalation and noticing the exhalation. And not trying to change anything, just being with things as they are. And then slowly start to engage Ujjayi Pranayama, feeling the breath touching the back of the throat as you inhale, and the roof of the mouth as you exhale. And we'll just do this for a little while like we did before. Not directing the breath in any particular way, just noticing that ujjayi, feeling that ujjayi just moving through the body. All right, now gently visualize that at the base of the spine, in between the pubic bone and the tailbone, right at the pelvic floor, is a ball of light. And that ball of light is not big, it's just enough to fit in that area, and it's the color of warm golden sunlight. And inside that ball, you're going to place the sound so. And you're going to use that ujjayi breath as you draw that ball up the center line of the spine, chanting so all the way up to the midbrain. And then as you exhale, you're going to chant hum from the midbrain all the way back down to the base of the body, right down the center line of the spine. So on the ujjayi inhalation, so up to the midbrain, and as you exhale, hum all the way down through the center line of the spine to the pelvic floor. So it's all one breath. So one breath up at your own pace and hum, chanting that mantra internally as you exhale. So we don't say the mantra out loud. It's all happening on the inside. So hum. So hum. And just keep going. So hum. And I won't say anything, just let yourself go through this for a few more moments, just feeling what it's like. If you notice any restriction in your breath in any way, just let go, just come back to a natural breath. But you can still do the mantra so from the base to the midbrain and hum from midbrain to base. Notice what happens with your energy. Do you feel more calm as you practice the visualization and the mantra and the breath simultaneously? Try and keep your awareness on the ball of light moving up and down the spine. Tucked inside is the mantra, and the breath is guiding you. So hum, so hum. And as your energy gets softer and quieter, just feel the energy collecting at the base of the spine and between the pubic bone and the tailbone. And now we're going to chant the mantra hum from base to midbrain. And then sa from midbrain all the way down to the base. Again, one breath is hum going up the spine, and one breath is sa going down the spine. Hum from base to midbrain. Try to stay focused on the mantra. And sa from midbrain to base. And just notice how when the mind wanders, you're just going to bring it gently back to the mantra hum, sa, hum, sa, hum, sa. You might even feel like it's getting more and more soft with the breath. So the breath, it's like you're hardly breathing and you're just feeling this mantra moving in the center line of the spine. Up, hum, down, sa. And it has kind of a vibration and a pulse of its own, independent of the breath. Now, if that's happening, just go with it. Think of this as your natural spinal rhythm. Cerebrospinal fluid has a pulse, and you're just tuning to that pulse. And then naturally feel how your energy just floats up to the center of the brain. And just take an index finger, place a drop of saliva on the kshetram point, which is the point on the surface of the skin. You might even like to draw some circles there with your index finger, just to bring the awareness to that point. And then feel that wetness, that liquid, like a drawing point, bringing your energy right there to the midbrain. And feel that mantra, so hum hamsa, so hum hamsa, just turning round and round in the center of the brain. And then letting that mantra dissolve into the mantra Om. And just internally, still chanting Om to yourself, but feel that sound or imagine that sound resonating in the center of the brain, like a gong. Om. And all the energy just rippling out from there. Om. 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 Just letting the breath go and just feeling that pulse of energy, pulse of light, sensation in the center of the brain. And just keep coming back to that sound, Om, internally, chanting Om. And if you feel like you're hardly breathing, just trust it, just go with it. Calmer the breath, the calmer the mind. You might feel your body moving a little bit or swaying. That's just the stress releasing from the body. And you tuning into the cerebrospinal fluid, the pulse of life moving through you. It's all very normal, very natural. All right, and then when you're ready, start to deepen and lengthen your breath. Maybe feeling your breath coming back into your belly. And then gently bring your palms to touch and bring your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And then separate your hands and bring your tongue behind your two top front teeth. And then let your hands rest on your face, on your eyes. Slide your hands down the front of your face to the back of your neck, around to the throat in front, all the way down the front of the body, all the way down to the pubic bone. You might want to press your fingers into your pubic bone and then slide your hands down your thighs and over your knees and all the way down to the soles of your feet, and actually rub, if you can, from your big toe right down to your little toe, just to wake up the feet again. And just slowly opening your eyes if they're not open already, and just coming back into the space. So those stages of the meditation, what I wanted to share is that you can jump into any one of those stages to support you. You know, the first stage being just the Ujjayi breath, and just calmly using the Ujjayi breath when you feel like you're going through something stressful with your diabetes management or in your life. And the next phase is to place the mantra inside the breath and direct it up and down the spine. And even just doing that without flipping over into Hamsa and going into the third eye and feeling the magnetic pulse and all that is enough to really settle the energy down and to train the mind to kick in when you need it. You know, like in a situation, a stressful situation, if you do this practice regularly, it becomes a habit. You know, they say you need to do a practice for 6 weeks to really bring it home. So there will be a recording of this. And if you felt like it was beneficial to you, I highly recommend trying this meditation, because hopefully you could feel just in the 15 minutes that we practiced it, how calm you can become. Yeah. And how resourceful this meditation can be.